support these Cracker Jacks. I'm telling you, it's like the cheese slipped off the cracker again with these guys.
Ford Examination.
Congratulations to the mayor and his brother on 1 year of the radio broadcast. I just wish they ran the city as well as they do the radio show.
Welcome to Ford Examination. I'm Brent Mosey, and this is the show that attempts to look at the inner workings of City Hall. Rob Ford was elected mayor in 2010 on a promise that he would clean up municipal politics. Has he done that? That's what we're here to find out. It's really hard to get a clear picture of what's going on with the Fords. The media apparently hates him, so the stories coming out of the news usually paint him as all bad with little substantiating evidence. At the same time, Rob and Doug Ford promote themselves to no end. They always seem to be throwing around figures and facts that prove they're the greatest thing Toronto has ever had. Their radio show is censored, so no one really asks the difficult questions. Anyone in public who even slightly disagrees with the Fords is crucified, usually on that very radio show. What we've done here is we've taken clips from their radio show to take a closer look at what's happening in Toronto. We're going to start today with Talking to Americans.
I love our neighbors. I love the Americans, but they need to get educated on the system sometimes, because one guy walks by, there's the mayor of Canada. Another guy,
I know.
the finance minister of Toronto.
Yeah, they need to be educated.
Man,
absolutely.
it drives me nuts.
Yes, Doug, that's so true. Wait a second. What's this? Take a look.
You're across from Detroit in the river?
Oh, Manitoba. Oh, you're in Manitoba. Windsor?
What about the homeless, guys? Tell us about the homeless.
Yeah, it's tough, Jay. When I think I said this in council, and Gina, I came down Bay Street, and there's this guy, sleeping on the streets, freezing cold with no shoes on. And then when you call in and speak to these folks, and they said, even if you give them shoes, you'll take the shoes off. It's a tough situation, sensitive situation, tough situation, but you don't want to leave them there.
The practice of city staff is to never turn away anyone who's looking for help.
Sounds like you're on top of it, Rob. Wait a second. Take a look at this.
This is a bylaw opening the door to make every ward have a shelter. That's the black and white of the issue here. Yes. Okay? I'm sorry to say, this is an insult to my constituents to even think about having a homeless shelter in their ward. And you want me to have a public meeting to discuss this? Why don't we have a public lynching?
Anyways, I just wanted to say, I know you guys were talking about the homeless issue a while ago. It's just kind of funny that you both voted against all those motions from Councillor Vaughan the other day.
This is how they attempt to censor the show. This is a caller that actually got through. Listen to how he asked the questions to Councillor Nunziata and how he gets cut off.
But the reason for my call is that I want to ask Councillor Nunziata, how long have you been a councillor?
25.
25 years. And I'm just curious to know, in those 25 years, what you've done to prevent violence in TCHC, any kind of things that you've actually done yourself to help prevent violence in these senseless murders in the city? Because you seem to talk a good game, but I don't know what you've done.
Well, Mike, I don't know where you live, if you live in my ward or not, but if you did, you would know how much I have done and continue to do. I have monthly meetings with the police, with tenants at Toronto Housing, and we have worked in partnership with the police, and especially the supervisor from our Toronto Housing buildings on improving the lighting, security in our buildings. There's a lot of programming that we're doing in my ward. And just recently, I moved a motion at Toronto Police Services and at Toronto Housing on a motion where we can work together, the Toronto Housing, the police, economic development, and if we can look at some of the social agencies that we have out there, and other agencies that are part of the city, the provincial rep, the federal rep, and working together and how we can find a solution, how we could make things better for tenants at Toronto Housing. A lot of it is out of the jurisdiction of the city. We need provincial legislation, and we need the federal government as well to help us. We, as you know, we're $140 million backlogged in maintenance in our Toronto Housing buildings. And as a representative on Toronto Housing, I've been advocating to get money put into our budget and to clean up some of our buildings, in particular the security cameras that we have that were not working. A lot of them were not working. And now good news is from Eugene Jones that they're all working. They've all been repaired. And so we have been moving towards, making a better life in Toronto Housing.
Okay, let me jump in here for a minute. Just noticing I've been down there a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I can assure you, you can go into her ward, into Francis's ward. She's heavily involved in her ward, heavily involved in every single level. And so that's what she does. If Mike wants to know, and getting involved with the Hammerhead program.
Oh, absolutely.
That's in your ward, and we could go on and on and on. Yeah. But anyways, let's get back to Colin Morrison.
Thank you, Mike, for calling.
Here's what I consider a typical call to the show. The caller is actually talking about curfews here, and Doug, of course, pulls facts out of his ears and completely screws up all the details. First of all, curfews are not in every American city. It's not across the board. It's per state, per city. Secondly, listen to the age. Listen to the age.
How are these kids going to get an education if they're out till that time instead of at home sleeping? I would like to see a reinstitution of the possibility of a curfew. I know this was visited a few years ago and it was turned down. I don't know whether it was the lefties who turned it down or whatever. Yeah. But anyway, I think we need something like this. And if we don't have it, these kids they're never going to get an education if they're so tired they can't even go to school or learn anything the next day.
Well, Gary, I have my place in Chicago still. They have a curfew. They have it places right across the U.S.
And how do they enforce it? How do they enforce it?
Well, if you see a kid walking down the street and the police pull over and say, "Let me see your ID," and if he's under 18, they throw him in the car, bring him home.
Is the government a better parent than you are? Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel apparently thinks so. He's backing a newly approved Chicago curfew that forces kids younger than 12 years of age to be inside their parents' homes before 8:30 at night.
Ford examination.
Every single penny of the city is accounted for, and is there things slip through the crack? As soon as we find out about them, we're on to them in about 10 seconds.
Exactly.
We're all over them.
And that's why everybody complains. Right?
Complains about what?
This is Gloria Lindsay Luby when she was a friend.
Well, Gloria, I want to thank you very much for joining us. We're going for a break, but again, one of the great leaders down at the city, and thank you. Councillor Gloria Lindsay Luby.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thanks, Councillor.
Now this is Gloria Lindsay Luby when she's not a friend.
You forgot about Gloria Lindsay Luby that lives in Etobicoke that was going to support it and then didn't support it. You forgot about Anna Bailau. It's
it's unfortunate,
Unfortunate. That's an understatement.
Here's a clip that I find a little bit controversial. This is Rob Ford telling people that want to run for council to call him and he'll help them out. Councillors are supposed to be representing the people in their district, in their ward. They're not supposed to be buddying up with the mayor.
Now, folks, if you want to run, there's an election coming up, October 27, 2014. Please get a hold of me. You have to be over the age of 18, be a Canadian citizen, and live in the city of Toronto.
let's use, for example, let's talk about subways and streetcars.
Right.
You're the only person who had a clear mandate from the people of Toronto.
Mr. Ford, just on behalf of the transit workers, I firstly want to express our disappointment at the fact that we haven't extended an olive branch to you since the last year's election to sit down and cooperatively discuss ways that we could potentially find savings within the TTC. Disappointing, but not surprising.
You've never called.
As for the recommendations in the report, I hope the taxpayers didn't pay too much for this cut and paste collection of very old ideas. Basically, it says cut service levels and contract out whatever you can. You all must be slapping your foreheads and saying, why didn't we think of that? The one good part of the report is on page 162 when it is pointed out that the TTC's fare recovery ratio compared to the cost of operating the system is 70%, which is the highest in North America by far. In Montreal, for example, it's 47% and even lower in other large cities. Let me explain what that means. It means the members of our union operate the most economically efficient transit system on the continent, with the lowest taxpayer subsidy by far of any other urban transit system. We'd like a little credit for that once in a while. Speaking of transit subsidies, let me point out something that is not in the report but should be. Every day, especially on weekdays, an enormous number of people come into Toronto from the 905 communities that surround us and jump on the TTC. Go down to Union Station any morning during rush hour and watch the crowds getting off the GO train and into the subway. Every one of those commuters is subsidized by the taxpayers of Toronto, to the tune of about $1 a ride, coming and going. And Union Station is only one point of entry into our transit system. I don't know how many people from outside Toronto use the TTC every workday, but I'm going to guess that it's way over 100,000. If that's the case, Toronto taxpayers are paying about $50 million a year in TTC subsidies for people who do not pay taxes in this city. Now, we've got nothing against the good people of Burlington, Mississauga, Markham, Oshawa, or any other suburb who use the TTC. They probably don't even know that they're being subsidized by the people of Toronto, but they are, and it's costing us a lot of money and putting tremendous pressure on the system. So here we have the report that recommends eliminating the Blue Night routes or raising fares. Okay, let's penalize Torontonians who work nights and can't afford a car. The report also suggests making it harder for the disabled Torontonians to use Wheel-Trans service. I don't think that even merits a comment, except to say it's unbelievable that we would be even thinking about making life more difficult for our disabled citizens, many of whom are seniors. So, Mr. Mayor, one of your campaign slogans was fairness for taxpayers. Will you vote for TTC service cuts that will make life more difficult or more expensive for tax-paying Torontonians without seriously attempting to recover the huge subsidies we give to people who don't pay taxes here? I think the people of Toronto deserve an answer to that. Finally, on the subject of transit privatization, I have just one fact that was absent from the report. The report mentions that York Region has privately...
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Councillor Layton, you have 1 minute question.
Mr. Kinnear, much is said about privatization in the report, but little actual evidence is given. We've asked repeatedly across every department that suggests privatization. Can you enlighten us on the potential for privatization to reduce cost of public transit?
Well, we've done extensive research on different jurisdictions that have privatized their public transit system. If you go to YouTube, there's a video, Keep TTC Public, a lot of information in there about other jurisdictions. Melbourne, Australia, which is a city that's reflective of the size of ours, went to privatization a number of years ago. Their subsidy rates are 2 times the rate of Toronto, despite the fact they carry 1/3 less passengers. It does not work, and there is no evidence to support it.
Hey, you got another second? Okay, Councillor Perks, 1 minute.
Thank you, Bob. You said that you pointed out in quite an effective way that the advice we got from KPG certainly isn't worth the money, the paper it's printed on, let alone the money we paid. You said also that you were willing to offer the mayor free advice on how to save money in the TTC, and he's been unwilling to meet you. Would you say those two decisions put together are wasteful and inefficient?
I would.
Seems like Rob Ford wants a government where everybody votes for him, where nobody opposes him, a media that doesn't write anything bad about him, people that support him. In other words, an authoritative government. Let's listen to these guys talk about the mayor having more power. Can you imagine these guys with more power?
And everyone believes the mayor has more power. He should have the power similar to the mayor of New York, the mayor of Chicago, the mayor of L.A. It works. It works.
The mayor in Chicago, do they have party politics?
Yeah, they have party politics, but but they're all Democrats, but it doesn't matter. What I'm saying, he has veto power. And then it takes 2/3 of the council to veto the mayor.
Oh, so my vote, okay, now, so if I disagree with what council said, you think I should just be able to wipe them right out and just say, I'm the mayor and when my vote...
No, it's about negotiating. You were elected by the people, and if there's 2/3 of the council can override the mayor, but the mayor also has veto power. My point is, folks, is very simple. There's one person gets elected as premier, and he runs the province. And it's frustrating when you're in a minority.
That's a party system. That's a party system.
You're still one guy. Put it this way, Francis. You know how it works.
It's not a party system.
If the premier, there's a majority government, the premier's God.
The premier.
Simple. Okay,
it's a party system.
He
it's
makes
not
the
a party
decisions.
system. There's not 3 leaders down at City Hall. There's not the
We're
leader.
talking two different things
exactly.
here.
That's what I'm saying.
Rob, what I'm
We're
saying
talking
is
provincially.
Provincially,
Right.
if you have the Liberals, you have the Conservatives in power. It's a
the
party
end of the day,
system.
It's a party system. But if you're not, for example, provincially right now, it's a minority government.
Right.
So if the Liberals want to put something through, they can't because they haven't got the majority of votes.
Exactly.
So I'll tell you, that's terrible for government. I'm telling you, folks, you either have a majority, you move forward, you look what the system is, and I'm not saying you change the system or change what I'm saying. Municipally, you change the system.
Then why have the councillors?
Simple.
If you're just going to overrule what the councillors say, then why?
You aren't overruling them because you work and you work together. Hold on, and if at the end of the day you have 2/3 of the councillors that can override you.
Doug,
it's no different than council.
Okay,
2/3,
Doug,
right?
you know that's not going to happen.
Why isn't it going to happen? So we're going to have a
It's up to
dysfunctional.
the province to do it.
It's
Okay,
not up
well,
to
the
the city to do it.
province has to do it. I've lived it down here.
Okay, time out here.
That's it for Ford Examination. We're out of here for today. Today we took a look at mostly older clips from the radio program. In our next episode, we'll be covering their May 26th radio broadcast. And following that, we should be completely caught up. Before I let you go, I just want to make you aware of a website that's out there. It's not a Ford fan site, let me assure you of that. It is called www.fordcracknation.ca. Once again, that's www.fordcracknation.ca. Ford Crack Nation. Covers all the news, the stories, the scandals, everything that you need to know about what's going on down at City Hall, so make sure you check it out. And until next time, don't believe the media, don't believe the Fords, believe what you see for yourself. Ford Examination is out of here.
Ford Examination.